welcome back. Today I'm going to be doing a very casual, very relaxed March reading wrap up. March has been the longest month ever, and I feel like for a lot of us, everything is very uncertain right now. Obviously the world is in a bit of a crisis, and so things feel a little bit weird, and I have been in a very weird reading space where for a long time I didn't know what I was in the mood to read, and then I kind of inadvertently ended up reading only one genre for the entire month of March. So today I'm going to be talking about the 7 romance books that I read in March. Like I said, I didn't really mean to read only romance for March, but after about the 3rd one, I decided to just lean into it, and so I ended up finishing 7. I really liked some, I really didn't like others, and a couple of things I just really enjoyed and were some of my favorite things that I read like so far this year. So it's a bit of a mixed bag for this month, but I'm excited to talk about all the books that I read, so I'm just gonna go ahead and jump right in. So the first book I read in March was actually on my 2020 TBR, and that was The Flatshare by Beth O'Leary. This was recommended by Natasha at the channel My Reading Is Odd, and I ended up really enjoying it, and it kind of like kickstarted the romance train that was March. This is a dual perspective novel about 2 people, Tiffy and Leon. Tiffy is looking for a new place to live, and fast, because her and her boyfriend have just broken up and she needs to move out of his apartment. And Leon is looking for a little bit of extra income, so they decide to do a flat share, which basically means they share the apartment, although they never inhabit the apartment at the same time. Tiffy uses it at night after she's been at her 9 to 5 all day, and Leon, who is a night nurse, only needs it during the day, so they never interact with each other. But they start leaving each other little post-it notes all around the apartment and slowly form a bit of a friendship, and then develop into something more, maybe. Obviously, it's a romance, so what do you expect? I ended up really enjoying this. I thought I was going to like it from everything that I heard about it, and I was right. I really liked the development of this relationship. I thought that the exchange of post-it notes was a very effective way for them to learn about each other without ever having met. And the scene where they eventually do meet kind of is a little bit more impactful because of this like slow build-up that they've had throughout the course of the book. I also liked that this was not just a romance. It does focus quite a bit on their friendship and then eventual relationship, but it tackles some harder topics as well. Tiffy is coming to terms with the fact that her ex-boyfriend was emotionally abusive, and she was in a very bad situation for a long time, and she thought that everything was good because she loved him. And Leon is dealing with the fact that his brother is in prison for a crime he didn't commit, and it's putting some emotional and financial strain on their family. I really enjoyed this. I thought that it was just such a very cute, perfectly executed romance, contemporary, whatever you want to call it. And I also really enjoyed the audiobook. It was such a fun experience listening to this story. There were 2 narrators for each of the perspectives, and I just thought that the narrators captured the voice of the story so well. I didn't think it was a perfect book. I had some issues with it. Like, I really didn't like the way that Leon's chapters were written at first. They're written in a very like kind of stilted, like staccato way that I didn't enjoy until I kind of got more used to it, which took a little bit of time. But overall, I did really enjoy this, and if it sounds like something you might be interested in, then I would definitely recommend it. I would also recommend the audiobook. Like I said, I'm really glad that I put it on my 2020 TBR and that I got around to reading it. The next book I read was The Romance Book Club by Lyssa Kay Adams. This is about a married couple, Gavin and Thea. Gavin is a professional baseball player, and so for much of their marriage, he has been on the road and been traveling, and Thea has been left to raise their twin daughters all on her own. Finally, at the beginning of the book, she says enough is enough, and she kicks him out, and he is desperate to win her back. So his friends allow him to join their book club, the Romance Book Club, where they read romance novels to get their wives back. Something that I really enjoyed about this book was that it followed an already established couple with history. I'm finding that those are stories that I really tend to enjoy in romance. These are books about people that already know each other. They already are so like connected to each other, and they have to figure out how to find their way back to each other. And I thought that the way that this one handled that whole situation was so excellent. I also really loved all of the moments with Gavin and Thea and their daughters. I really loved the sweet little family dynamics and family moments throughout this book. I just ended up really enjoying it. I thought it was tons of fun, and I'm interested to read more from this author. This is the first in a series or trilogy of companions, so there are going to be more books in this world following some side characters, which I'm really excited about. The second book actually just came out in March, so I'm hoping to get to that one very soon. I just thought this was really great, and I would definitely recommend it if you're looking for something lighthearted and fun and sweet, especially during a time when everything feels a little bit heavy and just uncertain. Romance is a good genre to turn to, and if you're looking for something new or looking to get into romance, then I feel like the Romance Book Club is a really great place to start. The next book that I read read was Say You Still Love Me by K.A. Tucker. This is my third K.A. Tucker book. I previously read her Wild duology, The Simple Wild and Wild at Heart, and I really loved the relationship, the writing. I kind of just had tons of fun with that series. And so I was excited to check out something different by her, and I ended up really enjoying Say You Still Love Me. This is about a woman named Calla who is a high-powered businesswoman. She is like the CEO of her father's development company, and she feels like she has it all, but she has never really been able to move on or get over her first love, the boy that she met at summer camp when she was in high school. And when the guy randomly shows up in her life again, her world gets kind of turned upside down, and she has to figure out if he maybe has a place in her future. And this book is told in two timelines. It's told in the present day, but it's also told in the past when Calla and the boy, whose name I cannot remember right now, are first meeting and falling in love. And I really enjoyed this. While I didn't enjoy it quite as much as The Simple Wild, I feel like K.A. Tucker has a very specific kind of signature writing style when it comes to these romance contemporary type stories, and I had a good time reading this. I thought that the choice to do two timelines was super effective. I really liked learning about the two main characters' history in the past and then seeing them kind of figure out what their future holds in the present. I also thought that the present was a little bit more of a slow burn, and I really enjoyed that, while in the past it maybe was a little bit more kind of like a insta-love situation, but it was handled really well. I just really enjoyed it, and I feel like K.A. Tucker is an author that I will definitely continue to check out in the future because I've enjoyed pretty much everything I've read by her. I don't think this book was perfect by any means. There were a couple things about it that I didn't totally love. Like, there are some like smuttier scenes in this book, and a lot of them do take place when the characters are in high school, like in the summer camp, and I don't think there's anything wrong with books like that being sex positive, but it maybe is a little bit of a strange choice to have a lot of the steamier stuff happening in the past when the book is geared more towards adults. That was my only like little thing about it, and also I just didn't find it as like memorable as The Simple Wild, but overall I did like it, and I will check out more from K.A. Tucker in the future, and I'm glad I read it. The next book I read I think might be my favorite book that I've read so far this year. I don't really know. I've had a weird start to my reading year, but I really enjoyed this one, and that was In 5 Years by Rebecca Searle. This is such a unique story. It's about a woman named Dani. She has her life figured out. She knows everything that's going to happen in the next 5 years. She's going to get the dream job that she's always wanted. She's going to get engaged, get married, buy the perfect house, maybe have kids. And on the night that all of her dreams seem to be coming true, she goes to sleep and she actually has a dream set 5 years in the future where she's living in a different apartment, she is dating a different guy, and everything about her life seems to be different. When she wakes up, she kind of just passes it off as a dream until one day she meets the guy that she dreamed about, and things kind of go from there. And I feel like that is a really good pitch to this book, but I also feel like I'd be doing a little bit of a disservice to the book if I told you that this was a solely romance book, because I feel like this book's strong suit is definitely the friendship between Dani and her best friend in the book. I feel like this is a love letter to best friends. It's this really great examination of how your best friend can be one of the great loves of your life, even if it's not in a romantic sense, and I really enjoyed that. I had a lot of moments in this book where I could see some parallels to Dani and Bella in my own best friendship with my best friend. I would definitely recommend checking it out. It's a newer release. It just came out I think in March, and I just want a lot of people to read it. I think that it is just so sweet and unique. Yes, it is a romance book. There is a relationship in this book, but at the end of the day, it's really not about that. It's really about friendship, and I loved it so much. So if you take any recommendation from this video from me, then let it be In 5 Years, because it truly was just one of the best books that I've read so far this year, and something that I feel like I'll think about a lot as the year goes on. After that, I finished two books that I did not really enjoy all that much. The first of those was Love Her or Lose Her by Tessa Bailey. This is the second book in the Hot and Hammered trilogy. This is the companion to Fix Her Up, which I read last year. It came out last year and kind of took booktube by storm. A lot of people read and loved it. I felt very meh about Fix Her Up, but I was still interested in reading the second book because it follows a side couple from the first book, an already established married couple trying to find their way back to each other, which, as we've already established in this video, is something that I tend to enjoy, and I did not enjoy this book at all. This was it was kind of a disaster, honestly. This follows Dominic and Rosie, who have been married for 10 years, but they basically do not communicate with each other. The only time that they show any kind of like interaction with each other at all is on their weekly Tuesday night sex marathon session. It's like the only night of the week where they have basically anything to do with each other. And at the beginning of the book, Rosie decides that she's had enough, and so she moves out, and Dominic decides he wants to win her back. That's basically it. I did not feel like this book had really any substance to it at all, other than the fact that Rosie and Dominic are so hot for each other. I didn't really feel like there was actually any chemistry between the two main characters. I felt like all of their thoughts about each other were so like superficial. All they cared about was how the other person looked or how they made them feel in a sexual way. I didn't really feel like there was anything like really going for keeping this couple together. I also felt like miscommunication was used as a major plot point in this book, and that was one of my issues with Fix Her Up as well. And I do not like when books rely on miscommunication as like the main reason why people aren't getting along or why there's a problem. And so yeah, overall this was just not a fun time. I did read it fairly quickly, and you know, honestly, I probably still will read the third book in the trilogy, but I cannot say that this book is good, and I definitely would not recommend it. And the only reason I do want to continue on and finish the trilogy out is because the couple for the last book was introduced in this book, and their chemistry with each other in this book was much more interesting than Dominic and Rosie's chemistry at all. So yeah, that's my opinion on Love Her or Lose Her. I don't have anything else to say, so I'm gonna move on to another really disappointing book, and that was The Right Swipe by Alicia Rye. This is about a woman named Rhiannon who is the creator of a dating app similar to Bumble. It is kind of like a swipe left or right type of dating app. At the beginning of the book, she's at a tech conference and she is looking to acquire another matchmaking service similar to like Match.com or eHarmony, something like that. She goes to this party and discovers that the new spokesperson for the matchmaker service is none other than the one-night stand that she had a few months ago that she can't stop thinking about, a former professional football player named Samson Lima. This book is about them reconnecting in a way, and it's also about Rhiannon dealing with some trauma from her past, and I did not care about this book at all. I really don't know if it's the book's fault or if it's my fault for reading so many romances in a row, but I read like the first 50% of this and I was so bored, and I really was having a hard time dealing with it. And so I ended up like skimming the next 20 to 25% and kind of reading the end, because I was so uninterested in everything that was happening. It took so long for things to get going. It took so long for just like any kind of connection between the two main characters to happen at all. And I didn't really feel a lot of chemistry, a lot of connection between them. So I wasn't invested in their relationship. I feel like this book did a really good job of highlighting strong people of color. The main characters are both people of color. Rhiannon is black and she's at the top of the tech industry, and she's a woman, so that was really nice to see. Samson is Samoan, and so the representation was really great, but other than that, I didn't really care about this book at all. I'm really sad about that. I've read Alicia Rye in the past and have enjoyed her books, and so I was really looking forward to this one, considering it came out last year and so many people loved it. I don't know if I would have felt differently about it if I had read it at a different time, but I do know that I did not enjoy the reading experience, and I was really glad to just be done with it when I was finished, so that was really unfortunate. I'm sorry if this is like one of your favorite romance books. I just didn't really understand why people loved it so much. And that brings me to the last book that I read in March, and one of the best books that I read all month. Definitely up there in terms of my favorites, and also just a really great turnaround from the previous two books, and that was Beach Read by Emily Henry. This is actually a book that I read as an arc. This book does not come out until May, and I am sad that you can't read it yet because I really enjoyed this. This book is told from the perspective of January Andrews, who is a very popular romance author. At the beginning of the book, she is kind of still dealing with the fallout from her father's unexpected death and some secrets that came out about him after he died. She moves to a lake town in Michigan where her father had a summer house, and she's kind of tasked with cleaning it up and getting it ready to sell, while also writing her next book because her editor is on her to write something. And when she gets there, she finds out that her new neighbor is none other than her college nemesis, Gus Everett, the very popular literary fiction writer. They're both kind of struggling with writing their next book, so to combat that, they decide to trade genres. January is going to write a literary fiction novel, and Gus is going to write romance, and they're going to see who can sell their book first. And throughout the course of the book, they get to know each other a little bit better while also overcoming some of their own internal grief and trauma. And I thought this was just so great. I really, really enjoyed it. It had some very emotional, sad moments, but it was ultimately just this really lighthearted, happy story. The banter between the two main characters was so good. I felt like everything about this book just felt very authentic, felt very realistic, because these characters were dealing with real situations that happen to real people all the time, and to see some of that portrayed in the book was just so refreshing. It just, everything about it just felt very real. It felt like I was just reading a book about two actual people, and I loved it. I honestly really, really loved it. I think this is going to be a book that people love when it comes out. I think it comes out like May 15th or something like that, and it's one that I definitely think you need to get your hands on because it is just so much fun and it will make you feel good, especially like right now when things are not feeling all that great. This book just made me feel happy while I was reading it, and I am excited for other people to get to read it when it comes out because it was just so fantastic. So those are the 7 books that I read in the month of March. It was a very interesting reading month. I had some highs, I had some lows, but ultimately I just am glad that I decided to take the whole month to escape from the current hell and just feel happy for a while. I think I'm back to wanting to read other things, so hopefully April will bring all kinds of genres and a wide variety of types of books, but we'll just have to wait and see when April gets here. Tomorrow. Let me know down in the comments if you've read any of the books that I mentioned in this video and what you thought about them. Do you have similar or different opinions to mine? I'd really love to know. Also, let me know some books that you read in March, or maybe your favorite book that you read in March. What book helped you escape the current hellish reality that we're all living? I'd really love to know. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you again very soon. Bye!